Well, hi, welcome for the channel here. We're all just tourists. I'm Jay. I'm a retired police officer. I'm a psychologist by training, and been a lot of a serial entrepreneur. Done a lot of things in my life, in the restaurant business. A lot of experience with that. Serial entrepreneur, as I said. But I'm retired now, and really, I want to share with you for a few minutes. I'm glad that you're sharing some time with me. And I'm going to share with you for a few minutes that everything begins with a thought. The chair I'm sitting in, the clothes that I wear, everything began as a thought in somebody's mind, and they took action and did something about that thought, and they created whatever it is that we experience. Everything in our life comes with a thought. In fact, we're thinking entities. You are a thinking person, and your thinking center is your mind. Now, when I say mind, a lot of people have a different idea about what mind is. You know, we talk about mind all the time, and most of us don't have a clear understanding of what the mind or the human mind is. We say, I'll give you a piece of my mind, or this is mind over matter, or that doesn't. I don't mind that. And what is the mind? And simply put, it is a consciousness that you have. And the mind is really the software that runs your brain. There's a lot of different parts of the mind, but there's two major parts of the mind. One's the conscious mind, and the other is the subconscious mind. Now you're familiar with that. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is what's called the brain power. It's the cerebral cortex, or the left and right hemisphere of your brain. It's your decision-making neocortex, if you will. It's your willpower. It's your matrix thinking center. When we think about mind, a lot of times that's what we think it is. It's really the logic center of your mind. Now, in my training, I call it the rider, as if it were a horse and rider relationship. So that's the conscious mind. That's the brain power. The other part is the subconscious mind. It's your limbic system. It's your emotive thinking center. It's the habitual way of thinking and or acting. It's really your core values. Albert Ellis, Dr. Ellis, who's passed away, he's a psychologist from years ago, said that we never know what our beliefs are. I think you can know. He thought it was subconscious. You didn't know. The subconscious mind is also what we call an associating making mechanism. And I call it the relationship between a horse and a rider. The horse being the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind is the rider. Now, my question to you is, which one's more powerful, a horse or a rider? Now, a lot of people think, well, I'm the rider, that's the conscious mind, and I'm more powerful than the subconscious mind, the horse. And I don't think that's true. The horse is much more powerful than the rider. The horse does what it does because it's been trained to do whatever we've trained it to do. The horse thinks it's more powerful, but it only thinks it's in charge. I'll give you an example. Consciously, my rider, I know that it's better for me to eat healthy, and that if I lose more pounds, as I age, as I gentrify, my health is going to be better. I need to be thinner. I need to lose a few pounds. That's what I know consciously. Yet when I walk into a restaurant, what does my horse tell me? My subconscious mind. Immediately, I want to get extra fries. I want to get the double burger. I want to get some Alfredo fettuccine or something that I know is not going to serve me. But there's this dichotomous thinking. There's this conscious mind that says one thing, and then there's a subconscious mind that says something else. And generally, what happens and what wins is the horse, the subconscious mind. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever been driving your car and you're not going to work but you make the turn like you're going to work, and that's because your horse is driving. That's because you're driving subconsciously, and that shouldn't scare you because you've trained yourself to drive by habit. You don't have to think about it. When you were 14, 15, or 16, or however long ago it was when you learned how to drive, it was a conscious process. You had to think, and you had to set yourself and make sure the mirror was right, and the seat was set correctly, and the rear view mirror was correct, and you put the key in those days. For me, now there's not much there's no key in my car, but back in the day, there was putting a key in, making sure that it was the right way, and you turn it, and then don't put too much gas. You don't want to flood it up, and you had to be in your conscious mind. But at some period of time, your horse or your subconscious mind actually took all the lessons, and it became a habit. And I began to drive by habit. And you do the same way. That's the way, when you put your pants on, what leg do you put in first? Your right or your left? If you're putting your pants on and you have two legs, you put one of your pants in one of your legs before, and you do it by habit. Now, do you know which one it is? Most of us don't, because it's something we do autonomically. We do it without thinking about it. So if I'm a thinking center, and the results I have in my life come from my thinking process, and my thinking process is bifurcated, it's conscious and subconscious, but my subconscious mind does more for me than my conscious mind, and my subconscious mind almost always wins, then how do I get an ability to change what I want to change in my life? And that's really, as a thinking person, as a thinking center, as a human being, our job is to retrain your horse, if you will. If you're looking at the horse and rider analogy, the power, you must have power to retrain your horse. And it comes from a couple of things. Number one, it can come from repetition. Those of you who are veterans, if you were in the military, you learn to march not by watching a video or not by reading a tutorial. You learned to march by marching and by doing it repetitively and a lot, doing a lot of whatever it is you're doing. So repetition is one way to train your horse. Another way is to train to train yourself is by desire. How much do you really want it? I know people that say that they want something. I've talked about this before in other videos. People don't have an ability to take action because their desire isn't strong enough. They say they want a better life. They say they want more money, but they are not willing to go and get the education that they need. They're not willing to step up and take the risk to get a job that will pay them better. So they don't have enough desire. So there's two ways to retrain your horse we've talked about so far. One is repetition. The other is desire. And the third way is by trauma or an epiphany. I don't recommend these methods. A trauma, if you have a trauma in your life, it might change your entire thinking. When I was 42 years old, I was told I had 6 months to live. I had stage 4 lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was going to die, get my stuff, my effects in order, that I had less than 7% chance. That's what the oncologist told me. Unfortunately, she was wrong, and fortunately she was wrong. That was when I was 42, and that was almost 20 years ago. And so I'm not dead. But that being told, a near-death experience, or being told you're going to die, is a trauma. And sometimes that creates a change in your horse because it's painful. The other way is an epiphany, which is the same thing. It's just an epiphany sometimes is not as painful. Sometimes when things click and you have an epiphany or a trauma. So you can have a repetition, you can have desire, you can have a trauma or epiphany, or you can have some emotional, significant event in your life, kind of like a trauma or an epiphany thing. Or you can force your horse to do what it is uncomfortable to do, but do it anyway. See, I'm sitting here talking to, I'm not sure who, but I'm glad you're listening. And it's very uncomfortable for me. I've been an educator. I taught applied psychology, which is part of this, for 10 years. And I taught that effectively. I taught it nationally, I taught it internationally, I taught it in different countries. I've taught in 48 states in the United States. So I've got a lot of experience. I've had small classes of half dozen people. I've had a class of 700 teaching what I teach. And so I know how to teach when there are people in my class. I know how to develop and engage folks and get good information in a practical way so that they can use it. What I don't know is I don't know how to do this YouTube thing. So I have to force my horse to do something that is uncomfortable to me, but I do it anyway. And that's what I would encourage you, if you want to create any change in your life, is figure out what you want and figure out what are you willing to pay emotionally for that. Because you can do repetition, you can do desire, you can have a trauma or an epiphany, or you can have a significant, emotional significant event. You lost your parent, you lost your spouse, which could be a trauma, which is a trauma. Or you can force yourself to do things that you didn't see yourself doing, but getting better results. It becomes easier. It gets easier, just like learning to drive your car. Your horse will eventually go, okay, that's the normal, that's what we're supposed to be doing, and it will become a habit for you. Of course, your mileage may vary.